I am trans. Specifically, I am gender fluid. Sometimes I feel like a man and sometimes a woman. Sometimes something in between. Um, it was a shock to me to say out loud and accept it, but the high of finally figuring it out temporarily made me forget just how long I've felt this way in hindsight. The biggest step in my journey was going to my university's Pride Center and joining Trans Talk Tuesdays on November 4th, 2025. The amazing people there were talking about how their identities evolve through their own journeys and how they have come to realize that they themselves are trans. It was perfect, really. I was just about to start my own journey. I remember the conversation flowing around the small group before we had. There was a silence. Everyone had talked. Everyone had shared something about themselves, and a few eyes lingered towards me. I hadn't talked yet. I was just there, nodding and listening to their stories. It's just a little nudge, a way of saying that I had the floor if I had anything to say. I did. I shared my journey. I told them that I was questioning, leaning towards gender fluid. My head buzzed as they welcomed me. The real me. I didn't know what to feel. I was shaking. I'd just come out to a group of strangers and I felt amazing. I felt like me. I walked home from that the happiest I had ever been in a long time. I had made one of the biggest jumps in my life, and the weeks following that felt amazing. I felt amazing. The joy I felt sort of rewrote that memory. Suddenly, I saw myself before coming out as this ignorant guy who couldn't have possibly seen the signs that I was gender fluid, but that's not fair to me at all. Sure, I probably couldn't see all the signs, but I guess I had felt this way for a very long time. Coming out was the big jump. My whole life before that were the steps leading up to it. As a kid, I never really fit into the traditional male archetypes. I didn't like sports. I was never physically active. And I liked being emotional. Now, I'm not saying that feeling this way means you're trans automatically. I think describing masculinity as this is kind of unfair to all men. Makes masculinity as this uber specific list of arbitrary traits that feel like they were chosen at random. Why does being more interested in nerd stuff make one less of a man? So, I still thought of myself as a boy, just not a very manly one. I hate the word manly. It does not describe me at all. So, that's where I started. A boy who didn't care to be a man. Then there was this one class at school where the teacher decided to split us up into boys and girls. The competition was hectic. People were talking smack to each other immediately. I didn't even remember why that happened. It was just some random discussion. I think it was like about history. Not even, it was a history class, but I don't even think we were talking about history. I hated it. It was so juvenile. It was stupid. The things my classmates said to each other were said absolutely as if they applied to all girls or they applied to all boys. there was a difference between the groups, sure, but that take that all away, we're all just people. No one's born smarter nor kinder. They were just raised into thinking that they weren't allowed to be. I remember saying to one of my friends, man, I wish I was non-binary. Just to get away from this stupid, like, pointless gender war that just erupted in the classroom. Just stereotypes left and right. It was, like, really uncomfortable. Um, and I guess that's where the second leg of the journey was. I was a boy, but I hate how boys and girls are defined. It's stupid. If I could be non-binary and stop caring about being one or the other, I would have taken it. Uh, Now, the friend I was talking to, who might be watching this, well, I'm pretty sure that the friend I was talking to then is the same friend who would later come out as non-binary. So, just really funny coincidence there. And I remember talking to them before they came out. I think we were talking about queer people. Now, surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, younger me and the topic of queer people did not go together. I was a horrible person. Just that straight up, I was. Uh, but even more surprisingly, I wasn't horrible in this specific talk. I think we were talking to one of our gay friends, and the conversation naturally veered towards queer identities. We looked up flags and really thought about how each identity worked. I remember admitting that I found the topic of gender more appealing than sexuality. You know, to me, if you like the guy, you like the guy, that was pretty easy to grasp. Gender? That's complicated. It's interesting. A lot of people identified with the gender they were raised as, sure, but that they identified with that gender without fitting into the stereotypes. And they were still cisgender. So it's more like complicated to me. And like people like tomboys, femboys, hell, even boys who actually are open to show emotions, or just girls who may be more brash. They're labeled as girly or boyish, like gendered terms, yet they are still cisgendered, but they're not bound by rigid bullshit like gender expectations. So if being cisgendered is already that nuanced and complex, how about the people who weren't? Who realize that they don't fit in the gender that they were assigned? Where can they go from there? What does that mean? How is that expressed? It was really fascinating to me. Uh, Too bad, I thought at the time. Too bad I'm cis. Guess I couldn't know. That's the third part of the journey. The boy who was fascinated. A little too fascinated. Maybe started to question. Hmm, what did he feel so detached? Why did he feel so detached from masculinity? You know? Then the fourth part was the boy who questioned. The fascination started becoming question marks. Labels were being flung everywhere. Transgender, gender fluid, non-binary. Maybe that one. The time that felt right, or kind of right. Non-binary. Maybe that might be who I am. I'll see. Who knows? maybe I'll be comfortable with it so much that I might be obliged to come out to my friend. What's that? Well, shit, someone already beat me to it. The aforementioned friend from before. Um, hey, good on them. But I will be honest, them coming out did make me stop and I guess question more before deciding on non-binary. I don't know why. It's as if like what two non-binary people can't exist. I just there was like a subconscious part of me that was like, am I stealing their thunder? is, is it a little too soon to say me too? Like, I did. I don't know why I did that, but I guess it led me to actually figuring out something that fits me a little bit better. Now, at the time, I feel like I wasn't cisgendered. My friends even had a little quiz show, and one of the questions that I submitted was, uh, what queer identity has Daniel explored? Or something like that. This supposed to be a question that no one knew the answer to except for myself, because the friend who organized this quiz thing, the non-binary friend actually, they they're all over this journey, huh? Uh, they said, let's make one of the questions something that the other friends might not know. And I'm like, oh, I have the perfect thing. I think, I think, not sure. I'm pretty sure when I threw this question out, they're like, are you sure you want to say that? And I was like, well, yeah, why not? I mean, I'm not saying I am any of these. I'm just saying I explored or questioned uh, if I am one of these. Um, suppose, yeah, it was supposed to be a question no one knew the answer to, and surprisingly, or not surprisingly, no one got it right. Uh, Here's the question. Daniel is straight. Whoa. However, he has questioned his identity before. Which ones do you think he has questioned himself of being? And it listed a lot. Um, One was trans, bi, and gender fluid. The and then like a joke answer. It was all of them except the joke answer, and everyone got it wrong. It wasn't It was stupid. I guess it was kind of like a soft coming out, like a teaser for a movie. You know, hey friends, don't be surprised if you see any of these flags next to my name in the next few years. Welp. Well, here I am. The fifth step, coming out as gender fluid. It was the combination of two of my friends coming out, one as non-binary and one as bisexual, that made me slowly realize that I can be queer and be comfortable about it in my friend group. Even though there were already a lot of queer people in the friend group, a lot of bisexuals, a gay person, it was, I guess, mostly those two that made me, I don't know, comfortable because I don't really know. They were, not to reveal too much, information about my friends, but the their coming out was very personal and very emotional and touching, very vulnerable, I guess. And it was less the fact that they were also queer, and more the fact that they were willing to be vulnerable. Um, yeah, I mean, even when making the quiz question, I kind of thought of me coming out as queer as a possibility, but not something that was going to happen soon. My gender wasn't really something that bothered me, so I didn't care much about exploring it. I just know that I'm a guy who didn't fit with stereotypical male standards, whether that be because I'm more nerdy or because I wasn't actually just a guy. Uh, and that was a question that was, I thought, reserved for the future because I had other things to do. But they're coming out made me realize when soon, when will I come to terms with it? Not just coming out to my friends, just figuring it out, coming out to myself. Being non masculine was something I had made peace with. I never wanted to be a buff womanizer who could solve any problem and never cried. I thought that was bullshit, and a lot of men think that it's bullshit too. Good. Yet this stereotype still is expected of men. Never really felt comfortable with that. I hate this gruff, no emotion, borderline predator, both senses of the word male that a lot of people expected men to be. Made me feel trapped. Um, Now, in the script, I wrote this over 2 sessions, and for most of it, I just wrote, didn't delete, but this part, well, I deleted this next part because I don't know how to word it without sounding really pathetic. Pretty much the next part of my story involves me feeling unloved and unable to talk to women in fear of being seen as a creep. I do feel like women have a good reason to be on guard, okay? So, pretty much I watched videos about this feeling, and even though they were not incel content, they still talked about the incel community as something that should be avoided because this headspace that I and a lot of people go through is separated from that community by a sliver. And that's morality, you know. I th- I think the difference is we do not blame women for our loneliness, but damn are we lonely. While the incel community blames women, and I hate talking about this, still the fact that these videos reference incels in some way may have had a hand in YouTube recommending me a specific video, and that's why I'm talking about that. Let's move on. But it's not just that phase. It was, I guess, a lot of small other things. Maybe I watched one or two voice training videos. Why? Because well, my excuse was Dungeons and Dragons. I wanted to do better voices when it came to Dungeons and Dragons, you know. I was the game master, and sometimes you have to play characters that are a different gender. And so I decided, well, I saw this post on Reddit that here's a little fun fact about, or a little tip for dungeon masters if you really want to sound better, if you really want to elevate your campaign, look up Trans voice lessons so you know how to sound like a woman. I I don't even know what to say. Looking back, that's just come on. I I I don't know. What can I say? I was exploring, okay? Sure, I may have explored with an excuse, but I was exploring. Anyways, this whole thing is what I think made the YouTube algorithm recommend me a video called The Incel to Trans Pipeline by KeikoCat. It is a really good video talking about a manga called Inside Mari. I haven't read it yet, but I guess now is any time as any to the as good as time as any but to read it. Uh it talks about the transness of the characters in the manga and the possible trans struggles that the author of Inside Mari had while writing it, and I think they still continue to have. Um, I liked it. I really did like it, but I liked it from an outside perspective, as a cis man, a cis ally, I guess, nodding and empathizing with a trans analysis of the manga. It wasn't till the video ended and the credits rolled along with the patron names that something struck me so deep and raw that I just stood there in silence. Song played. I Don't Know If I'm a Boy by Blue Foster. I don't know if I'm a boy. I don't know if I'm a man. I don't know if I want titties. I just know I want to be called pretty. I guess you could say gender non-conforming, but I've done really well conforming. And non-binary doesn't have the ring I was looking for. Those lyrics, they just explained so thoroughly how I felt. It was as if this song was stripped from my psyche and put into words exactly how I felt about myself. I don't know if the timeline matches up, if I watched this before or after the friend group quiz, but either way, I'd say that this moment is the moment I realized that I might be queer. Open my eyes. Just explained everything I've always felt. Now, 2025 came, the current year. So I'm recording this new school year, the fourth year of my program, computer science. Yes, I know, very stereotypical. Uh, don't worry, I know. I am a walking stereotype. It is supposed to be my last year here at my university, but I'm taking an extra semester or two. My third year burnt me out so much that currently I'm still thinking if computer science really is the path I want to take. I decided to take the minimum amount of courses and wanted to use the free time to socialize. My years here in university are coming to a close and I have no friends. No close friends. I talk to people, but it didn't really feel like, you know, I knew them. A nod, wave, nothing deeper. Still haven't dated. Yeah. Crushes, sure, but I don't trust myself to actually have a crush on someone. It's just limerence, it's obsession, it's falling in love with the idea of falling in love rather than actually falling in love. Don't have a job. Uh, that was one of the things, the fallbacks. I kind of convinced myself to take computer science. Of course, I want to be a game dev, but the second reason was it could pay well. But I do not want to work in this, in comp sci. It's, it's horrible. I don't feel accomplished. I am still distant, I am a mess, and I want things to get better. Those were the things that were running in my mind when this school year started, and those are the things that sometimes still permeate in here. Trying to get more friends, I decided to join this little Discord for my university, the student union Discord, let's call it. I thought it was just a generic Discord for all other students, but actually it was focused on the centers in campus. Um, the Women's Center, the Help Center, and the Pride Center. I genuinely felt out of place when I entered. Most of the centers were for women or queer people, which I was neither of. Well, I thought so at the time, but it did introduce me to one of the Pride Center's events, a little thing called Trans Talk Tuesdays. Trans was one of the labels I was bouncing around with. Question that always lingered. Gender fluid was the one that I was leaning towards, but officially I considered myself at the time questioning. Too bad then, I said to myself, that it's only for trans people. Not really. I read the post introducing the weekly event and it said a community for transgender, gender nonconforming, genderqueer, and questioning people to connect and mutually support one another. Shit. Questioning was there. I mean, I was still thinking of excuses not to go. I mean, gender fluid, well, actually is the label I was leaning towards, and, well, that's not trans, right? Well, there's gender queer. Is that the same? Then I realized that trans is actually an umbrella term. It includes the kind of trans people that you're probably thinking of, but it also includes gender fluid people and even non-binary people and a lot more. Just means that you don't feel right with the gender you were assigned at birth. Non-binary people weren't assigned that, I guess, unless you have like really progressive parents, but I doubt that. gender fluid people, they were, they were transing all the time. So, yeah, I kind of felt stupid for not realizing that those two terms fell under the trans umbrella. But, you know, not all gender fluid and non-binary people identify with trans label, but I'd say I do. But yeah, I was questioning at the time. This felt like a sign that maybe I should be answering instead. In the dorm building I'm in, there was a poster set up just inside the elevator. It said, "Come as you are. Are you queer and living in residence? Contact the senior resident advisor. Get connected to the queer community in residence." Uh, I only recently um, did that. It was fun. We watched How to Train Your Dragon, which I I guess was weirdly trans in some way. When you really like look at it from a certain view, the lessons kind of do it, kind of could fit into a trans perspective, which is interesting. But anyway, that was just another strange sign from the universe or whatever. That it's time to start figuring shit out. So I went to Trans Talk Tuesdays. I went to the building where the Pride Center was. Um, I went in the first time there. I looked through the door of the Pride Center, saw people that are sitting on the couches, and I took a deep breath. Saw that were a sign leading to a gender neutral bathroom, and instead of going in, I headed there. My face in the mirror looked so scared. I was shaking, just nervous. I knew what was going to happen next, and the disappointment in the man I saw in the mirror was palpable. I was going to do what I tend to do when I go to situations like this one. And I did. I ran out of there, went home. I was scared. It's stupid, but I don't know if they would accept me. You know, the Queer Pride Center. Why wouldn't they? But I was terrified, okay? But I felt good. Felt strong because I actually walked to the building and considered going to the Pride Center. I wasn't just thinking about things now, I was actually out there trying to seek out answers. I was moving. So next week came and Trans Talk Tuesdays once more. This time though I got the courage. I went in there. I told the three other people there that I was gender fluid. I said it out loud. I am gender fluid. Holy shit. I am. At the end, there were only three of us there. I talked to these two other trans women who were so welcoming and supportive. They said if I had any questions about this mess that is gender, that I could come to them, and it felt nice to just be accepted, even if I don't know what I am. we went out the door, one of them grabbed a pin from this little collection thing right by the door. Uh, there were so many pins, each one of them was a different pride flag. She took one and asked me if I wanted the gender fluid pride flag. I admitted I don't really remember what that looked like. She admitted to. She was also a little rusty on each of the flags, but eventually we found it. Here it is. Right here. I still have it. I walked home that night so happy. Held, held this pin in my pocket. This piece of plastic. 5-color line. Pink, white, purple, black, and blue. It's a small thing, but to me in that moment it was everything. Smiled at the night sky where I saw endless stars, the galaxies out there. Space is so big and vast that I can barely imagine it all. It's a great universe, and it was the same set of stars, the same sky, the same moon that I had always looked at since I was a child. And ever since I was a child, I like to look up and question if my life, if anyone's life really mattered in this big infinite mess that is everything. You know, we're all small, we're all virtually nothing. But this, this, on that night, I didn't feel like a speck of dust. I felt like I did matter. For the first time, I wasn't just some passenger watching a failure of a man go through their life. I am someone that actually exists. I, me, I fit into all of this. I matter. These insecurities, these failures, these questions I've had all my life had answers. And I finally knew more about myself. Guess I've subconsciously always known, but I never said it out loud. It was all hypotheticals. It was all questions. It wasn't something concrete. But then I looked down my pocket, pulled this pin out. And yeah, I don't know. I can't explain it. I just felt like I finally knew who this guy is. I finally felt for a long time that, I don't know, there's something more about me. I guess there's something worth caring about in this stupid thing here. Maybe this thing isn't that stupid. Maybe it's something worth knowing. Maybe. The fifth step of the journey was realizing that I had been on a journey ever since I was born. Just realizing that I can be happy, that I never actually forgot how to be happy, to realizing I don't have to be miserable all my life, that I am trans, that I am gender fluid, that fifth step, it's only the beginning. Every step is the beginning because I can change. I'm allowed to. And it feels good. The questions are always there, but you can't answer them by just making up more questions. You can't answer them by just letting them stew in your brain. You have to, like, I don't know, try. I gave up trying in my third year. I don't want to try, I just kind of want to exist. But fuck that. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to figure out this stuff because it feels good to get to know me. It just feels fucking good. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah. I, I, I love that. November 4th, 2025. One of the best days of my life where I got this pin. I am Daniel. When I first started this script, I was comfortable in the labels trans and gender fluid. Now that I am writing its conclusion and reading out its conclusion, I had some time to question myself even more. I am definitely trans. I identify with that label. I think it succinctly explains, I guess, part of me. I do currently feel my gender fluctuate from time to time, but I'm not sure if it's because I'm actually gender fluid or because of some subconscious denial that, I don't know, I'm simply just a trans woman. I currently tend to feel like a woman most days, and the days I'm not, I don't really feel like a man, at least not fully. It's weird. Queer, even. Gender's weird. I had the strangest feeling one day when I felt both like a man, or sorry, a woman, but masculine. Yes, a tomboy, if I had to label it. That felt really strange but good. Like, really, really good because, I don't know, it was me. Yeah, mostly lean feminine these days. There was spectrum from boy to girl, um, girl being red, boy being blue. Most of the times I'm red, at the very least a reddish violet. I don't think I've ever truly felt deep blue, at most an indigo. That's not intentional. uh, a bluish violet. That is very funny. Again, right now, uh, I think I'm gonna stick with gender fluid because it does feel like this stupid thing called gender within me is fucking sloshing around, doing whatever the fuck it wants. But again, maybe it's simpler than that, and I'm actually just a girl all the time. I don't know. Either way, I'm getting used to feeling like a girl, at least sometimes. It's fun. It's really, really fun. Oh yeah, if you're my friend, you're my friends, don't be surprised if my voice sounds a little softer sometimes. Again, the weird phase where I watched a couple of voice training videos. That's when you try to sound like a woman when you're not. Well, at the time, I guess. uh, may or may not have rewatched some of those. But yeah, what a. I am a walking fucking stereotype. Magic player, computer science student, Germa fan, D&D player, trans. Yeah, fucking duh. Obviously, yeah, I could have figured this out quicker. You know, I mean, my friend gave me a blahage. I have a blahage. To be fair, he's my trans friend, and we played it. We She gave it to me when we played Magic the Gathering. Yeah, okay, very stereotypical, but it was after I figured it out that I'm not cis. Yeah, I mean, I'm recently getting to Guilty Gear. That's another one. Create mod for Minecraft. Another stereotype apparently. I mean, to be fair, there is an estrogen mod. I may or may not have chosen to play a mod pack specifically because it had that mod. Whatever. Don't worry about it. Okay? That's my job. I am worrying about it. Maybe the spin will change. That has been my journey so far. Look, I still like my name. Both of them. Daniel and Adrian. I don't feel dysphoric about it, but if I ever were to change my name, I think I just, add it to the list. Blank, Daniel Adrian. Then my last name, which I won't say because I'm gonna make this a public YouTube video. Whoops. No doxies. I want to apologize if this came across as a little stupid, but I realize I don't care if it is. The stupider it is, the more personal it is, and that's kind of the point. Because I'm stupid, and I'm learning to love me. Either way, I am, for now, Daniel. It may change, it may not. I currently identify as gender fluid. Sometimes feel like a man, sometimes a woman, most times a woman, and sometimes neither. It's not just those three, it's more of a spectrum, which, yeah, that may change, it may not. Well, I guess by nature it is always changing. I am for sure trans, though. Either way, I'm happy. Because no matter what, I'm me. Um, Hopefully if you're my friends and this is how you figure out, you'll understand, you know, to be happy to figure yourself out. I'll be honest, I'm scared. Still very scared. I don't know how you'll react. Part of me doesn't want to know, but part of me, you know, wants to believe that, there's nothing to worry about. Whatever. I'm happy. That's all. Thank you for listening, and I truly, 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 truly love you all. Yeah.